We often view elite athletes as psychological fortresses, individuals who can step into a stadium packed with 80,000 screaming fans and execute complex skills with clinical precision. We assume that because they are physically superior, their bodies are somehow immune to the crippling anxiety and mental weight that an average person feels before a major life event. The reality is far more turbulent. Under the microscope, high-stakes pressure and chronic psychological stress trigger a massive, cascading physiological war inside an athlete's body. The mental burden of a championship match or the fear of a career-ending mistake alters everything from their nervous system firing to their basic cellular repair mechanisms, transforming a highly tuned physical machine into a fragile biological system. When an athlete feels the immense weight of expectation, the brain doesn't distinguish between a modern stadium and a primitive survival threat. The amygdala, the brain's emotional radar, fires an alarm straight to the hypothalamus, instantly activating the sympathetic nervous system. Within milliseconds, the body is flooded with a toxic cocktail of stress hormones, including adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol. While a brief burst of adrenaline can aid short-term explosive power, prolonged exposure to high pressure turns these helpful chemicals into destructive forces. It alters the body's internal chemistry, disrupting the delicate balance required to maintain peak physical performance and leaving the athlete physically compromised before the game even begins. 1. The microparalysis of motor control and performance choking. One of the most devastating physical consequences of high psychological pressure is the literal disruption of muscle memory and motor control, a phenomenon sports scientists call choking. When an athlete is relaxed, their movements are governed by the motor cortex and the cerebellum, allowing complex skills like a golf swing, a tennis serve, or a penalty kick to flow automatically without conscious thought. However, when the brain is overwhelmed by intense pressure, it shifts control to the prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for analytical thinking. This shifts the athlete into a state of hypervigilance, forcing them to consciously think about movements they have practiced millions of times. This mental interference disrupts the natural sequencing of muscle contractions. Opposing muscle groups begin to pull against each other simultaneously, causing physical stiffness, tremors, and a loss of fluid coordination. A movement that should be second nature becomes mechanical and clumsy, proving that psychological pressure can physically lock down an athlete's motor pathways at the worst possible moment. 2. Cortisol inundation and the halting of tissue regeneration. While adrenaline handles the immediate fight or flight response, the long-term enemy of the elite athlete is cortisol, the primary stress hormone. When an athlete faces continuous pressure throughout a long season, dealing with media scrutiny, contract negotiations, and intense fan expectations, their cortisol levels remain dangerously elevated around the clock. Cortisol is inherently catabolic, meaning its primary function is to break down tissues to provide quick energy for a perceived emergency. When cortisol levels are constantly high, the body's natural muscle protein synthesis is aggressively blunted. The microscopic tears that naturally occur during daily training sessions are left unrepaired because the hormonal environment actively blocks cellular healing. This creates a state of chronic degradation where the athlete's muscles gradually lose their elasticity, strength, and power output. No matter how pristine their nutrition or how intense their workouts are, an athlete trapped in a high-stress hormonal loop will physically break down because their body has temporarily lost the ability to rebuild itself. 3. Visual field tunneling and cognitive processing degradation. Peak athletic performance requires an immense amount of sensory processing. A midfielder needs to scan the pitch for open spaces. A driver needs to calculate changing lines at 200 miles per hour. And a fighter needs to anticipate a split-second punch. High psychological stress severely impairs this visual and cognitive architecture through a phenomenon known as visual tunneling. As stress hormones flood the system, the brain restricts peripheral vision, focusing the eyes exclusively on what it perceives as the central source of threat. This narrowing of the visual field severely damages an athlete's situational awareness. Furthermore, the high cognitive load of anxiety slows down the brain's reaction time. The working memory becomes cluttered with anxious thoughts, meaning the brain takes a few milliseconds longer to process visual information, calculate a response, and send the necessary electrical signals to the muscles. In elite sports, where championships are decided by millimeters and milliseconds, this stress-induced cognitive delay makes the difference between a historic victory and a catastrophic mistake. For autonomic nervous system exhaustion and cardiac strain, the heart is the primary engine of athletic performance, but chronic pressure keeps the autonomic nervous system in a state of permanent imbalance. Ideally, an athlete wants to maintain a high heart rate variability, which indicates a healthy, flexible nervous system that can easily transition between the stressed sympathetic state and the calm, restorative parasympathetic state. Chronic psychological stress destroys this flexibility, locking the nervous system into a permanent sympathetic overdrive. This chronic imbalance means the athlete's resting heart rate remains elevated, even while they are attempting to rest or sleep. The heart is forced to work harder around the clock, expending vital energy reserves that should be reserved for actual competition. This constant neurological strain burns out the central nervous system, leading to profound chronic fatigue, decreased explosive power output, and an inability to hit peak heart rate zones during competition, effectively capping the athlete's physical potential. 5. Immune system suppression and the vulnerability window. The physical trauma of elite sport already places a heavy burden on the immune system, but adding psychological pressure to the mix creates a dangerous biological vulnerability. High levels of stress hormones actively suppress the production of white blood cells and natural killer cells, which serve as the body's primary shield against infections and illnesses. This creates what sports scientists refer to as an open window of immune vulnerability that is significantly wider and deeper than normal. During high-pressure tournaments or intense media scrutiny, athletes become exceptionally susceptible to upper respiratory infections, viruses, and systemic illnesses. Getting sick during a critical competitive cycle completely derails training adaptations and destroys physical conditioning. Furthermore, because the immune system is also responsible for managing the inflammatory response needed to heal bruised tissues and sore joints, a stressed immune system means the athlete stays sore longer, recovers slower, and spends more time operating below 100% capacity. 6. The high cost of the mental burden. Ultimately, the bodies of elite athletes are not separate from their minds. Every anxious thought, every ounce of external pressure, and every fear of failure manifests as a direct, measurable physical consequence within their physiology. Chronic stress locks the joints, slows the brain, halts muscle repair, and drains the cardiovascular engine. It is a stark reminder that true athletic dominance requires more than just mastering physical mechanics and conditioning. It demands the psychological tools to regulate the nervous system, because a body at war with its own mind can never achieve true physical perfection. If you want to continue exploring the deep hidden science of elite sports performance and human optimization, make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you never miss our upcoming breakdowns.